West Bengal, where panchayat elections are currently ongoing. TMC Minister Robbie Ghosh caught on camera slapping an opposition candidate inside a polling booth in Kuch Bihar's Vivekananda Pali. Robbie Ghosh is the Minister of State responsible for North Bengal development, and he is seen slapping and chasing the man out. There was panic inside the booth. Other TMC workers then charged upon that opposition candidate and thrashed him as well. More shocking, all of this happened right in front of the police, and those are the visuals there on your screens of this entire incident. I'm being joined by Tamal at this point. Tamal, the question really is, what was Robbie Ghosh doing inside that polling booth? Because that's not even where his polling booth where he's to vote, nor is he a candidate.
Well, that's right. That's the question answer of which even just not we, but even the State Election Commission is now looking for, because the state has taken cognizance of this incident of this Trinamool Congress minister slapping an individual who is also an opposition candidate, that too inside the polling booth. The State Election Commission has now sought a report from the polling officer of that particular booth to understand what was Robbie Ghosh doing. Yes, as you rightly questioned, in this particular booth, which is in Vivekananda Pali in Kuch Bihar, Trinamool Congress Minister Robbie Ghosh is not a voter. So yes, at the first place, what was he doing there is something that comes as a shocking question. More importantly, after he slapped this individual, then we also saw the battery of Trinamool Congress supporters who were there with him. They charged upon him, and then he was literally thrashed in public. And thereafter, we also saw this man was heckled and pushed out of the polling booth, and all this happened in front of a police officer. Now, that police officer who is there in uniform can be clearly seen trying to get into that chaos. We do not know what was his intention, like whether he wanted to rescue that individual or trying to assuage that tension or be part of it, because it seems like he has been simply outnumbered. And there lies the bigger question: has security deployment across all these polling booths in West Bengal had been adequate? Because that was a very pertinent question raised by all the opposition parties, given the spate of violence that preceded the panchayat polls. Not to forget, there had been more than 24 deaths so far. About 14 Trinamool Congress workers themselves have been killed. There had been opposition workers who have been killed in this entire political violence. So in this spate of political violence, security had been a major concern. Even though there had been a demand for central forces, the state government decided otherwise. The state government decided no central forces would be required, and thus they have pulled in about 1,500 armed security personnel from neighboring states like Sikkim, Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, and also Assam. And these 1,500 security personnel, armed security personnel, will be in addition to about 70,000 West Bengal police personnel who are already there deployed. So at the moment, yes, the incident of Robindra Ghosh, a Trinamool Congress minister, had just not come as a shocker. It has also raised several questions, uncomfortable for the state government, equally uncomfortable for the State Election Commission. But the State Election Commission has to now, respond to the questions of security deployment, even though the security deployment as a mechanism had to be overseen, had to be supervised by the state government. But the State Election Commission was in its jurisdiction to raise pertinent questions. Has he done it? That's a question that you have to wait to be answered by end of the day, when the Election Commission, if he chooses to do a press conference. With regards to other incidents of violence, important to mention, there have been several reports of violence coming in from districts like Jalpaiguri, districts like Kuch Bihar, Birbhum, Bardhaman, and also South 24 Parganas. I am in South 24 Parganas. It's important to mention one particular incident which is ongoing in South 24 Parganas at Bhangur with regards to a power grid which had been at the center point of massive clashes and disagreement between Trinamool Congress workers, a faction of Trinamool Congress workers, and a faction of Anti-Land Acquisition Forum. In fact, just 2 days back, an individual who is also a supporter or a family member of an independent candidate who belonged to Anti-Land Acquisition Forum was shot dead. And Arabul Islam, Trinamool Congress leader, also considered to be strongman in this area, was arrested after Mamata Banerjee demanded his arrest. So there had been an undercurrent of tension over there, and that tension has continued till today. In fact, before polling began at 7, there had been reports of violence. Media people were heckled, thrashed, cameras broken down, journalists thrown out of the place, and because clashes erupted between Trinamool Congress workers, at least to be specific, a faction of Trinamool Congress workers holding its its allegiance, loyalty towards Arabul Islam and Anti-Land Acquisition Forum. Situation continues to be extremely tensed in Bhangur and also other places like in Jalpaiguri district and Kuch Bihar. And this incident of Robinder Ghosh, Trinamool Congress minister, has put the state government at a very sticky spot. Back to you.
Right. And Tamal, given all these incidents that you've just listed out and spoken about, has there been any additional deployment of security forces across the state?
Well, no, that cannot happen. The election is now underway, and even if they all of a sudden realize the requirement of more forces, no one can be, airdropped in Bengal now. So the requirement had to be addressed before, and the state government thought it's prudent not to call for more security personnel. Yes, we were given to understand by state government officials the state was more keen on pulling in security personnel, security forces, primarily police forces from states which are non-BJP, which has non-BJP government. Initially, they had approached Andhra Pradesh, Telangana and also Bihar, but now we know that 1,500 security personnel, and that's what we are being told by the State Election Commission, at least, to be on the safer side. Now, the State Election Commission has reportedly told us that 1,500 armed security personnel have been pulled in from places like Assam, Sikkim, Andhra Pradesh, and they are all here in addition to about 70,000 West Bengal's own security personnel. Then the big question is whether all the security personnel we are talking about, are they all armed? The answer definitely is no. In fact, that as a question was also raised by the Chief Justice of Calcutta High Court. In fact, even he had questioned, Justice had questioned as whether one armed security personnel is enough along with an unarmed security personnel to man every booth, because we have seen what had happened in 2013, and there is a history of violence in West Bengal, not specifically restricted to Panchayat polls, and that has not really been restricted to the opposition camp alone. In fact, just 2 days back, or a couple of days back, Mamata Banerjee too herself has said as how this political violence has also wreaked havoc in her own home. 14 Trinamool Congress workers have died in the run-up to the polls. So it has just not been the opposition workers who have been victims, as they have been alleging, at the hands of Trinamool Congress, or as they've been alleging the high-handedness of the state government. We also know the state acknowledges 14 Trinamool Congress workers, who are dead in this run-up to violence. So yes, overall there is violence and there is an unanimous acknowledgement of it. Then the big question remains, given the fact that law and order is a state subject, what has the state done adequately to ensure the law and order situation remains contained within the ambits of within the ambits of normalcy, and whether the state government has really taken care of the fact that in the rural Bengal there had been such small local issues which had been brewing for long, and Bhangur is a case in point. A tension which started all over over a power grid issue, bringing to fore an anti-land acquisition challenge before Mamata Banerjee's government, who catapulted to power in anti-land acquisition movement. But then we have not really seen anything much happening over there. In fact, the state government believed that Maoist hand is there as far as the violence which has been triggered in Bhangur, or the tension which has erupted in Bhangur. So overall, focusing once again back on Panchayat polls, it has not been an easy start to the day. There had been violence all across in most of the places, and of course this incident of Robinder Ghosh, or Trinamool Congress minister, is quite embarrassing for the state government.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tamal, for getting us all those details.